welcome back to another episode of talking to my lovely gun community. I mean, we always have lots of content to cover because guns is so vast and it's always in the limelight of everything. So I see it like we need to have discussions about how things work in our everyday life with dealing with guns, not dealing with guns if you choose not to be. However, I don't really imagine many people here who are not for guns. But if you are, I welcome you nonetheless because I like to hear and learn from everyone. So, if you are the first time joining here, you may not know who I am, so I'm going to introduce myself. First of all, hey, everybody. I am Mrs. Trouble, and welcome to Shoot the Shh. So here it's all about women empowerment. It's all about women in child advocacy. But definitely, I don't want to forget my guys out there since you guys are also supporters and many of my students are guys. I really appreciate you guys joining and just jumping in here and being a part of this conversation weekly because it's a much needed discussion in our gun community how we can keep ourselves safe with the use of firearms, but also keep our loved ones safe when we own them. So, there are many approaches to this step. And one of the things that really bugs my brain right now is how guns are just the worst thing in the world for so many people, and I find it really intriguing. And I come up with the question on, are we really preparing the next generation to fear guns, or are we really helping them know about gun safety? So it's one of those things where it's up for discussion. So as you guys join, I would love to hear from you in the chat box. So if you can just throw something in the chat like a hey or what area you're joining from. I always like to know who I'm speaking to. When it comes to this world of guns, it's just so many things to learn. So I never approach things as if I know everything. I like to learn from you guys just as much as you come here to learn from me. So this discussion on whether or not we're teaching our next generation to fear guns really came up with the fact that I see so many things happen in the media all the time. Like just yesterday, we had another, what they consider a mass shooting. It was 4 casualties and 16 people injured, and that was in South Carolina. And they're still investigating what's going on with that. But so I don't have much information on that right now. But what I can say is another mass shooting in the United States. That is crazy. I'm really getting tired of it, and we really have to do something different about it. And so that's my goal every week, to talk to you guys about things that we can do to keep ourselves safe and better decisions we can make by being gun owners. Hey, thanks so much for joining, Beatrice. Welcome. So when it comes to this whole thought process about, are we really painting a picture of safety and handling with firearms, or are we painting a picture of gun fear? It's already a high fear of guns. And the thing is, when people have regular conversations about guns, like I know there was one time I was out and about passing out flyers for some event that we had going on with the shooting simulator. And this lady told me that she would take third graders over guns. Like, don't talk to her about guns. Don't approach me about guns because I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, and we just keep having all these mass shootings in schools. And I don't think that's the appropriate thing to have conversations about guns. We need to keep kids away from guns. And I was like, wow. And that really set me on a serious mission, a mission to educate people about guns. Because obviously, to me, in my opinion, this lady had no real education about firearms. And I really feel like that's the missing piece. That's my personal opinion. Don't want to pass that off on you guys, but hey, tell me what you think. Welcome, James. Thanks so much for joining. Michael as well. Hey. I appreciate you guys joining us. So honestly, when it comes to this whole thing about gun safety, whether it's fear, whether it's gun safety that we need to be concerned about, and how we approach these things, I really think it's all about community. We really need to talk about these things. It's a lot that does not come to surface in conversation, and it needs to be. Let's see. Somebody said, I'm just going to put my 2 cents. Let's see. Kids have to be taught about guns because at some point they are going to learn about them, and some may be curious, and whether they have friends who dad gas. Okay, you're right. So when it comes to that, not sure what happened, but I'm back. So I definitely agree with you, and thank you so much for putting that comment out there. I mean, honestly, there is so many things I can talk about when it comes to guns, and it's interesting that I get shut down sometime by some people who don't want to hear it. They don't want to talk about guns. You say guns is the worst thing in the world. So many schools have told me no already, that I cannot come into their facility. As a matter of fact, they think it's a great idea, them individually, but them to bring it to the school board, oh, no, I don't think we want to go with that right now, or the parents are not going to be for that right now. And I'm like, well, we have to do something different than what we're doing, because obviously what we're doing is not working. We keep having mass shootings all over the United States, specifically having them in schools, which is so disturbing because it's a place that's supposed to be a safe space for our children. And I mean, they're going to be the future. So we really need to be instilling in them safety, not fear, like safety handling and not fear, because I don't think guns are going anywhere. I don't think that's going to ever happen where guns are just gone. So, I mean, if you really think about history across the entire world has guns involved, and that's how lands were conquered, people were conquered, and disputes were won, because there were guns. And I don't necessarily agree with any of that necessarily, but I'm just pointing out the facts. We're already here where we are right now. Wherever you're listening from, 9 times out of 10, you're there because somebody used guns to conquer that land or be in that space or stay in that space. So comes down to it, I mean, there's multiple uses of it, but at the end of the day, kids are going to be exposed to guns one way or another, as someone already eloquently mentioned, and we need to control the narrative. I mean, what better way to have your kid be educated than by you, versus them getting it from the movies or social media postings, videos, music videos, I mean, and then even particularly the video games as well. They get very desensitized looking at these guns in those platforms, because that is entertainment, and the outcome of those things are not always reality. I mean, for goodness sakes, at video games they respawn, not in real life. I mean, if you have a 4-year-old playing a video game that's a shooting game and people respawn, they may think in the back of their mind that that's how that actually works in real life, until we actually teach them otherwise. I mean, just giving an example, and then videos, movie, like people looking at, okay, all these like rappers out here that's just waving guns around. It's all cool to be a thug, so forth. All this thought process. These kids out here actually trying to live the life that these people are rapping about, and they think it's cool. But it's up to us to actually teach them about it, because in their mind, they think this is cool. They think this is the way they want to go until they're actually in jail or they're unalive themselves. So we have to do something different that's going to change that narrative. I mean, gun politics are crazy as well. If you follow any of the politics that's happening about guns right now, I know the major thing that I just seen with guns is California mayor saying that they were banning, well, guns that can take switches, guns that you can put a switch in. I seen that, and of course, that includes Glocks, primarily Glocks. And so they're banning the purchase and sale of Glocks in California. That's where they're going for right now. And I'm just like, wow, that's really interesting. I don't know that that's going to hold up, because apparently that's not effective until January. The NRA is already suing California as a result of this. So we'll see how that ends up. I mean, we never know. So just keep your ears open, your eyes open for that. If you live in California, that'll be something good to know. But it's just one of those things, because we have one person on one hand, again, fear is the thing. You got people out here talking about, oh, they can't take out guns, and if they do that, they're going to take something else. And I'm just like, y'all, stop making people be fearful. Instead, let's just educate. What does this actually mean? What is the goal supposed to be achieved, and how do we prevent from more things happening? So that's something that we need to look at. Don't just get caught up in all that and be afraid of change, because change is inevitable. It's going to happen. But what change? We as the people do have the right to vote, and we need to vote these politicians in that's going to support our views. So we definitely need to do that. So let's see. Somebody said, okay, I'm just reading the comments here. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely keep trying to take things, honestly. But when it comes to this whole thing here, we're going to go through a couple points here. Today, we're going to talk about the traditional approach or modern approach to firearms with children. We're going to talk about why kids are actually naturally curious. One person already brought that up, and you're exactly right. Educating them versus hiding the guns, and then parental responsibility, what type of things we actually have to do to make sure that we're safe and our household is safe around firearms. We're going to talk about all of those things. We're going to talk about working with instructors that is in your area. Definitely talking to your different instructors that in the area that's going to have the knowledge that you need to keep yourself safe. So let's jump right into this. So my point number one to take home is traditional approaches versus modern reality. I mean, at the end of the day, old school might have said, if you see a gun, don't touch it, run and tell an adult. And I'm going to say this is old school because these kids aren't growing up in a do as I say, not as I do type of era. They really don't have that type of mindset. So I don't really know if I necessarily want that approach to be the same thing of a certain age. If a kid is maybe 3 and 5 years old, sure. But I think somewhere around that 6 year old age, somewhere around that age, it might be better to start having conversations to elaborate on that, such as if we do this at home, I'm going to teach you a safe way, and I'm going to show you that guns are not a toy and that they're not forgiving. There is no such thing as respawning. There is no such thing as take backs. And these are conversations we need to have as a parent with our kids. If we're going to have guns in the house, the point of this is to take the curiosity away from them, because I mean, my kids, for example, they grew up, my two oldest ones grew up helping me and my husband set up concealed carry classes and gun safety classes. So we would have guns on the table in the classroom as they're helping to put out the pamphlets or whatever, maybe some donuts and coffee out on the table and things like that, another table. And they'll see all these guns. They'll see us when they come in the house from school. We're cleaning guns and things like that. Like, they saw these things. So they were familiar with guns already from jump. And the curiosity never really festered into fascination, if you will, or obsession. It more so was a healthy respect for firearms. They clearly understand that guns are not forgiving, that we can't have room for mistakes with them, and that there is no takebacks. So, and that it's definitely going to be something that's going to harm someone, most likely permanently. And so that is something that has been drilled in their head. And so I think them being raised like that, the curiosity is not so much there. And because we run a company with firearm safety and training, if they are interested, we have healthy ways to help them be a part of that gun community. So I think that works, and you guys need to know there are some healthy ways about being a gun community. You guys can do this as a shooting sport. I mean, it's very well as a shooting sport, whether it's just you and your kids going to the range, having fun shooting at the range, or whether it's putting them in actual competitions where they can go around the world and win trophies and win money prizes and things like that. So there are other opportunities with firearms, and that could be healthy. And of course, there's always our security, our police, our military. Those are always some other sources of more positive approach towards firearm use, or at least legal ways of firearm use as well. Now, when it comes to those things, you have to be mindful of being, educated on how your approach is and knowing your kid, honestly. I've had plenty of students to believe me, it's been amount of stories that I get is so crazy and vast. But one story really sticks out for me. There's been quite a few of my students that were brought up with guns, primarily in a more rural area, more country area, and For example, I know recently one guy had told me that he was about 10 years old when his father put a 44 Magnum in his hand and told him to shoot it, and he shot it, and he never touched the gun again. And here he is, like almost 40, just coming back around to actually taking a gun class because he knows that guns are dangerous and he just never touched them. That scared the crap out of him, and so he never touched the gun again. All the way into his well adult years. And that wasn't the first time I've heard that story. I've heard other people say that their father may have given them a shotgun to shoot in their backyard. And it was like, wow, this is too powerful. This is too loud. I'm not ever touching this again. And they had this experience as a kid. Now, that's a more, I want to say radical approach, more aggressive approach towards things. I'm not saying that that's something you should definitely do, but that was a tactic. I said, hey, that might be one way to do things. I'm not necessarily against it. Well, the other approach is just simply taking a gun safety class with your kid. Like, do it as a family. Make it a family outing that you guys go do a gun safety class. Whether it's just in the classroom first, or whether it's virtual first, or whether you decide to just go straight to the range and have an instructor there with you guys, walking you through things step by step and hand in hand with those things. But that'll be a good approach because it shows that this is something that is allowed while you're under the care of the appropriate person, while you're with me as your parent, and if you are interested and I want to help you with this versus being afraid of it and telling them to not touch it. And here it is, they're 13. They're well equipped to pick up a gun at 13, regardless if we want them to or not. So we need to understand that if they choose to do it, they should be safe about doing it. Now, there are some concerns with this because you have to go along with the education of not just using the gun appropriately, but the fact of explaining to them what are the consequences of them using the gun inappropriately. Because at the end of the day, they make their own decisions when we're not around them. Okay, so we have to equip them with the knowledge for that. Now, I do want to ask you guys though, has any of you guys been shooting guns since a minor? Because if you have, was it a good experience or a bad experience? Just let me know in the comment section, honestly. So let's see. Let's see. And I really am curious that I know growing up in the city area, majority of us probably, like myself, growing up in the city, was taught to just, guns were for police, military, thugs. That's it. Wasn't for civilians. And I never really imagined being a gun owner. And it's so crazy that I ended up in this profession because I just never really thought about guns much. I just seen it as, oh, okay, that's a gun. And yeah, that just killed such and such person that I knew, that because I lived in a city. So those type of things were happening on a regular basis. And hearing the ambulance, hearing the police, it was a normal sound that I was hearing the gunshots, just being in the city. And so those are things that I had become a little accustomed to. And so I just never considered myself a part of that life. But the thing is, there are some kids that has natural curiosity towards guns. And so we need to know how to foster that, particularly our young men out here looking at these music videos and all these rap songs about them shooting Glocks and all this. It's so crazy because if you're a gun person and you listen to the lyrics, half of these guys don't even know what they're talking about. There's some lyrics out there that does not make sense. They're mixing up different brands of guns and different calibers, and it don't make sense. And it's crazy because it's like, you're the ones out here that my kids are getting educated by, and you're not even right. So it's very important for us to understand that there is a lot of fake news out here and in music as well. And we need to be conscious about that, about how we're giving that information. Now, the parental responsibility we have, honestly, deciding whether or not you want to take the approach of educating your kid or you feel like you want to just go ahead and keep hiding it. You need to decide, because if you're going to decide to keep hiding it, that means that at some point in time, your kid is going to come across guns and they may not have the knowledge and understanding of how to deal with them. Like just recently, there was a kid that the mom is out there now on social media explaining how her kid was suspended for a whole year because somebody bought a gun in school and he decided to make the gun safe, unload it so that nobody would get hurt. but he didn't tell anybody right away. He wasn't trying to snitch on the kid, and he wasn't trying to get anybody in trouble. He just wanted to make sure everybody was safe. So he unloaded it, and he got expelled for a whole year after he made everybody safe. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But that's the world we live in. Again, guns are just demonized here, but there's so many good things that could be done with them. Like, for example, right now, we are providing a training for those who are blind. Now, when you think about a person who is blind having a firearm, for many, that sounds crazy, sounds radical even. But when you really think about it, they are definitely a, a target for many people who mean them harm. I mean, they're walking around with a walking stick. You already know they're blind and they can't see you coming, right? But wouldn't you be really surprised that they actually use a lot of more other senses than we do, and they can actually shoot? And the goal is for it to be close quarters anyways, not for it to be far away. But there's no law stating that they cannot hold a concealed carry permit. And there are many people around the United States that are blind that holds a concealed carry permit and that does own guns. So they wouldn't be the first and only. But those are things that we are doing to help people. I mean, even if they wanted to do it as a sport, this is something they were taught that they would never be able to do. And the fact that it's just empowering, it uplifts people. Shooting is, like I said, a sport, and it could be fun. And so that's the approach for that as well. Now, the thing is, if you are a parent and you have a firearm, you definitely have to do your part in making sure you store the gun up safely. Although you're taking the time to educate your kid, I mean, you still have to do your part in making sure that the gun is put away safely. So you can never get around that. Constantly make sure you do that. The thing is just really approaching every situation, whereas, educating our generation to come with not necessarily fearing the gun, but respecting the gun, knowing that it is something that can be used for fun, but in a safe way, or it can be used to protect yourself and with rules. And those rules cannot be broken. Always point the gun in a safe direction. Always keep your finger off the trigger. No exceptions to it. And the thing is, never using it unless it's an absolute dire need, literally a dire need to use it. And those are the things that you have to instill. And so that whole conversation about guns with people, also be careful about who you're having that conversation with. It goes hand in hand with the whole thing of why people don't talk about politics with strangers. They don't talk about religion with strangers because it gets so heated. Guns are the same way, I guess, because they're very political, right? And so you do have to be mindful of who you have those conversations with. But I do want to leave you guys with a few things to think about. So let's see. I'm curious, do you think the don't touch gun and just go tell an adult is the best approach to dealing with this with children in general? Or do you think starting to educate them gradually more and more about firearm use is the better approach to, I guess I would say elaborate on the don't touch the gun and tell an adult type of approach? And then I also want to ask, the thing is, guns are not going anywhere. So we just need to really understand that they're going to learn these things from someone. And we need to understand that it may not be the best advice. It may not be the best approach. And we can do our part in making sure that it's at least cultivated in a healthy manner, and always talking about the fact of, mental health awareness as well. When and when not to use that gun. Those are things that we need to consider. Like, guns are not used because I'm angry. That's not what it's for. Guns are not used because you're frustrated. That's not what it's for. So these are things that actually needs to happen, those conversations. And then the whole fact of the consequences, like, who does it affect? It does not just affect you. It affects everybody else involved and their family member and friends. And then whether or not you still are here with me on this earth, or whether or not you're in prison and I can't see you anymore. Those are the conversations that need to be had with these kids. And then just helping them understand some different safe ways about how to protect themselves if others are trying to mean them harm. It doesn't always consist of a gun. Sometimes there's less than lethal options, or shoot, there's a good old fight sometimes. I mean, I know people don't fight fair these days, but I'm just saying, there are some other ways of defending yourself, and every situation does not mean that we need to deal or have a gun. So, if you guys enjoyed this conversation, I really appreciate you guys being here. Please give us a thumbs up so others can know this conversation was worthwhile being here. And then also, definitely stay tuned to the channel. See what other things I have out there because you never know what information might be useful to you. Next week, I'll be back with another conversation that's just a little bit more going into things. Why does the word gun actually make people uncomfortable? I mean, we just say it all the time so much when you're a 2A supporter. You don't really think about it, but having conversations with others makes them a little bit uncomfortable. I see people's face expression, body language change when I say this is what I do for a living. Sometimes it's excitement, sometimes it's fear, and sometimes it's like, okay, I don't know about this one. They're looking at me like I'm crazy half the time. So the thing is, why does guns make people so uncomfortable? Because I'm not putting those pieces together right off the top. Because in my mind, guns is a part of everyone's history that's here on this earth right now. So thank you guys for jumping in here today. And I will see you guys next time, next Friday at 8 p.m. Thanks so much.